everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. You are here at our virtual open house for the Master of Professional Studies in Applied Industrial Organizational Psychology. Hopefully that title didn't scare you away and you all are still here and know that you're here to learn more about our program. So we have a lot that we plan to cover tonight. So you've been speaking to the admissions representatives about our program and about this decision and journey that you'd like to embark on. But we're hoping tonight to tell you a little bit more about ourselves, the history of Mason, our IO program, and more about the MPS program, and share some student testimonials. And we have two guest speakers here with us tonight because we want you to hear and learn from the current students who are in the program right now and be able to ask questions from both, Dr. Stagel and myself, as well as the students. And then we'll wrap up talking about the admission requirements and hopefully answer any lingering questions you have. And hopefully Dr. Stagel and I will get to review your applications that'll be coming in for the fall or the future. And please, I know we said Q&A at the end. If any question pops up and you want to make sure you don't forget it, Dr. Stagel's monitoring the chat, and we're always tag teaming really well to make sure that we answer all of your questions in the time we have tonight. So please, please, please feel free to ask your questions in the chat, and that's why we really wanted to make sure that chat feature was working. But please feel free to jot down any questions you have during any time in the presentation. All right, so my name is Dr. Afra Ahmad, and I am the program director. And I know we were talking about schools. I'm actually a longtime Mason patriot. I went to undergrad and did my master's and PhD all from right here at George Mason University. After I graduated, I went abroad for a few years and taught in the United Arab Emirates and lived in Dubai before returning back home to Mason and, launching and building this online program. And my research expertise is in the area of diversity, equity, inclusion. So that's where my passion lies in terms of my research interests and topics. We've been having some great conversations. I get to teach the research methods and practicum course and help support students on their journey as they learn more about the research process and how it's applicable to things they're doing. And so we'll be talking a little bit more about some of those requirements a little later on. So now I'll turn it over to Dr. Stagel.
Hi, let me get your faces back up here so I can see you. Hi, I'm Dr. Kevin Stagel, and I'm the assistant director and assistant professor here. And I started in assessment consultancies in '96, and then moved on to tech incubators, and ultimately here in academia. So I'm very interested to meet all of you, and look forward to get to know you this evening. Welcome.
Oops. So a little bit about Mason. I know that there's a lot of folks here from Virginia or the area, so you all are probably very familiar with George Mason and its name. But for those of you that may not know, and Victoria, I'm curious if you knew, did you know that we were a branch of UVA? Yeah, so we have, George Mason University was established actually in 1956 as a branch of the University of Virginia, and we became our own institution in 1972. And more recently, we, are classified by the Carnegie system as an R1 doctoral research university. And that is a huge deal because, this is where the expertise lies. We're going to be talking a little bit more about the faculty, but there's the faculty cadre, we have faculty that are leading in not just the journals, but their applied experiences and leading positions in the field as SIOP presidents. And so, that's really, a keynote or thing that as you're thinking about different programs for you to learn about. And so we have multiple campuses. For those of you familiar with the Northern Virginia area, we have the Arlington campus, Prince William and Fairfax campus, and one in South Korea, as well as several online programs. Anything else you'd like to add about Mason? All right, go. I know, Kevin, go for it.
Was that for me? No, I'm just fascinated that it broke in 7. I thought you were suggesting that there's still a subsidiary of UVA. That's in 72 they became independent. That's very interesting to me.
Yeah.
But we have here at Mason some fabulous research oriented resources because we're an R1 institution. And we pride ourselves on that in this program. We study the applied scientific method in the workplace to cultivate smarter workplaces. And we build, more evidence-based solutions to build those smarter workplaces. So, you're going to get in touch with just an incredible spectrum of faculty, including 6 SIOP fellows. So just incredible resources for you here.
And for those of you that may not know, PSYOP is our professional association, or Society for Industrial Organizational Psychology. So getting a fellowship status takes time and lots of effort. And so the fact that we have 6 PSYOP fellows here teaching in our program, we have both full-time and adjunct faculty, is a really unique point about our program.
I should thank you, Dr. Ahmad. I should mention that there's only like 270 or so PSYOP fellows, and 6 of them are here on the whole planet. 6 of them are here. So that's fairly amazing, the depth and breadth of that. And we also have, in addition, the rest of us, we have 14 other instructors dedicated to this program. In fact, 15, I believe. So there are 21 faculty members here to support you in some capacity, in addition to your success coaches and just, awesome set of university services. So many people are here with you, matriculating the journey with you, and celebrating in your success as you learn and grow.
Absolutely. And so now a little bit about the IO program. We have been around since 1972, the same time when we became our own institution. And as we mentioned, our faculty have been academics, practitioners, and serving in the profession. And several of our students go on to be doing all of these amazing things as well in the workforce. So our program, the Master's of Professional Studies in Applied Industrial Organizational Psychology, the fully online program, which is distinct from the on-ground, in-person PhD and MA program, we began in the summer of 2019. So we had a little head start prior to the pandemic, but we were founded on the scientist practitioner model. As Dr. Stable alluded to, we are preparing individuals for applied careers in a variety of industries and positions. So several of you may already have jobs and are applying what you're learning to the current jobs you have. Several of you may be aiming for promotions within your own organization. Several of you may be interested in switching careers altogether. So we are, catering to all those different needs. And so, but everything is based on the scientist practitioner model. That is the heart of our field. And that's why it was important for us to point out that with that science part, you have that covered with the faculty research expertise, and the practitioner part through all of the applied nature of the coursework here. So you take coursework for about 1.5 years, and you follow an 8-week modular schedule. So the nice thing is you focus on one class at a time while you're balancing your work-life demands. And all the courses include applied projects and assessments that may be very much translatable to the workforce. And as I mentioned earlier, I teach the research methods and practicum course, and that is your sort of capstone experience. And then you round off with completing your electives.
I just wanted to cap that thought diversity, occupational diversity of the program is amazing. In the last 2 years, we work with medical experts, engineers, computer scientists, and they're, people, accountants, lawyers are in this program, and they come here, and senior representatives of every government agency. They come here and they bring such, diverse, incredible experiences, applied work experiences, and it makes for a very rich and engaging learning experience. It's not just people focused on, we have every version of psychologists here, or people that have studied master's levels in psychology. Some we have doctors in education, and they're here retraining, or PsyDs retraining, and it makes for a really rich and engaging experience. So
absolutely, that's what I was going to add was we have students who graduated just last semester from their undergrad, all the way up to graduated 30 years ago. And those, again, undergrads, masters, and what surprises Dr. Stagel and I is folks coming back who already have their PhD or PsyD, and they're coming back to leverage the expertise and knowledge of IO and make it applicable to the work that they're doing. So wide variety of work and educational backgrounds here at Mason. We've talked a little bit about what makes our program unique. We've noted some of the faculty and experts. We noted some of the way that the online modality. So we mentioned that you're taking courses one at a time in 8-week modules and whatnot. Most of the work is asynchronous. You can do it at your own pace, but you do need to, as the students will talk to you a little bit about, you do need to have deliverables due by the end of the module and week, and to kind of keep your pace yourself. And we highly encourage the students to attend live office hours, which a variety of faculty host in different ways. Some faculty do mini lectures, others invite guest speakers, others talk about the assignments. there are a wide variety of ways of the office hours are held. And, we are competitively priced. I actually just last month ran the analysis again and compared on average, we are cheaper than other programs, $4,000 cheaper compared to the average of all other online programs. And we do offer some financial aid support. So several of our students, to be qualified as a full-time master's student, you just need to take 2 classes in a given term, and then you can qualify for some financial aid. And so several of our students work with the financial aid office to see what offerings or support that they can lend from that. All right, so a little bit about our curriculum. This is the set of coursework that you're going to be taking. So the required courses that all students in our program are taking is you'll come in and begin with the introduction to the science and practice of industrial and organizational psychology. And this course was actually something developed after we launched the program because, as Dr. Stagel mentioned, we have students coming in from a variety of academic backgrounds, including degrees. Not everybody had a psychology degree. They were coming in without some of that base knowledge. And so to sort of level that playing field, we offered this course to everybody to get everyone ramped up and familiar with the fields of IO and how to write and think in terms of from these IO perspectives. And then you take the Foundations of Organizational Psych course, then Data Analysis 1, Foundations of Industrial Psych, Data Analysis 2. Now you notice, and you might ask yourself, well, why aren't we taking data analysis back to back? I see Victoria smiling. We didn't want to burn you out. We want you to have data analysis and then take a break with the content course and then another data analysis course. And so we did that, deliberately. It's for your benefit to sort of break that up with some of the content courses. And then we require all of our students to take the selection course, because how can you be an IO psychologist without having taken selection? And then you do your capstone experience. The research methods and practicum courses go hand in hand. So you will take them, one at a time, but in a given term, and you'll work with peers on completing a project. And then you wrap up the program with 2 electives. And yes, you have to pick 2 out of this great list of electives from leadership, motivation, well-being, teamwork, organizational change development, performance management, and training. But several of our students are looking into the opportunities of taking additional electives beyond their time here with us at Mason. And so we are definitely working on providing some opportunities or support for that. So that's a little bit about our curriculum. The research project, a lot of students ask about this capstone experience. Victoria and Jessica will be joining the research methods and practicum course in the fall. And so this is how it's typically laid out. We have students working in small teams, research teams, because if you notice when you read those scholarly articles, most research is done in teams. And so they'll be working in teams and identifying a workplace sort of problem or challenge that may be happening. Some of them get sort of their ideas are generated from their problems going on in their own workplaces. And so they come up with a research question and they work on developing that, completing a literature review, coming up with the outline, writing the entire intro, putting together the questionnaires, finding measures, putting together questionnaires, and then administering it. Ideally administering it to people at work, but we understand there are limitations. So a lot of our students do snowball sampling, and their friends and family become great participants for our surveys. And so they administer those questionnaires and then come back and write up the results discussion. And then they practice their applied skills by drafting a white paper and applied presentation. So by the time they're done with this process, they would have engaged in all those steps and really be able to execute this and translate it back into several of their work tasks and things. So that's a little bit more about that capstone experience. And I make sure I cover that because a lot of times when people read practicum, or they are thinking, do I have to quit my job and start doing a separate work, or how does that work? So, but we're trying to say that we're trying to combine the work you're already doing in your workspaces with your coursework. So you'll notice even earlier in the program, we'll often ask, contact a subject matter expert to do this job analysis, and it'll be individuals from your workspace. Now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Stagel. He's going to talk a little bit about the areas of competence that are developed in IO programs as outlined by PSYC, that professional organization that we mentioned earlier, and how that is relevant to the offerings we have here at Mason.
Okay, so this is the areas of competence to be developed during the 18-month, slightly longer experience now. And we have 26, 24 plus 2, I like to call it. There is these initial 6, the set of quasi competencies / knowledge skill mixtures that are what we consider the professional set, and we cover each of these during the first 6 weeks of the first course. But you also have specific courses in some of these domains, such as research methods and stats. Then there's the core set. I study groups and teams, and more generally human performance, and some team leadership and management, and along with that, a bit of performance appraisal and training and development. So, and you will likewise probably gravitate to a subset of these and not be, you'll start out more as a universal generalist, and then you'll move towards becoming a deep generalist perhaps. And then ultimately you'll specialize in some areas as your career progresses. But you're going to get full coverage of all these, including some additional ancillary coverage of the supporting disciplines such as consumer behavior and human factors, many more. You're going to learn about management theory and economics and social psychology. And so if you study, groups and teams, you're also going to study social psychology to some extent. If you're going to study behavior in the workplace, you're also going to understand management theory. And so there are other related disciplines that you're also going to study to some extent. And IO has always been a multidisciplinary endeavor pursued by interdisciplinary teams. And so there's a lot to learn beyond this, but this will give you some sense of the core or educational courses, build and then progress from basic to more advanced acumen or proficiency in these core sets, and then ultimately core and general sets. And then ultimately there are other activities that you're going to engage in besides the coursework. There's just a complete spectrum of experiences here. There are opportunities for you to participate in the fall and spring where the PhD students complete a course, and you're allowed to sit in on their course. I mean, that's just amazing and unheard of for masters, especially online master students. And that course involves them hosting a series and delivering a series of colloquia talks that are from outside external speakers, such as world-renowned academicians and these amazing consultants from top companies and research institutes, researchers and scientists from top research institutes. And they come in and they speak about, their thoughts on and research on the latest on these core competencies and other related areas. And they share the greatest thoughts with us and the PhD students, and you get to attend those and interact and learn, and you get to network with other experts and the other students in the program, both the MA students and the PhD, and they're in a top 5 program. So these are top students, and then they do some amazing presentations in their own. We invite them in fact, into the courses, including my first 2 courses with you. And they come speak about some incredible topics. We've had them come in and talk about artificial intelligence and machine learning. And so there are other experiences besides the core courses that you're going to get access to. There's a business school version of this learning series that we host in the fall and the spring, and you'll get access to that as well. And just the guest speakers and the other opportunities beyond there are events at conferences, at national and global conferences, and there are events that are hosted if you're in the DMV area or you want to come in. Some of our students fly in for these events that are live in Fairfax. And so there's this blended learning experience going on that's much greater than just this classroom environment. And all of those interlocked experiences, there's integrated learning events. That's where your learning signature, that's what is driving your learning signature over time. And moreover, it's not just while you're here. It's almost more valuable if you think about it over your period of your career, 20 or 30 years, that you're going to get access to the learning series from now on. So, 15 or 20 speakers come in, I guess, in the fall and 15 in the spring. And that's 30 opportunities, that multi-hour opportunities to hear the thinking of some of the world's best experts at this. And just the value of that over, you multiply that times 10 or 20 or 30 years that you'll practice or port this to your workplace. And it's just incredible value. I can't emphasize that enough. So it's enduring value, not just an immediate impact.
Absolutely. And we do have students, and again, just like we mentioned that they come in with a variety of educational and work experiences, they come in with a variety of a capacity to take advantage of these opportunities. So this is what we're telling you, everything we're going to be offering in terms of these opportunities. And you have students that based on their work life demands are making those decisions and choices on, how much to engage. But we remind students that it's all about how much you put in is going to be how much you're able to take out. And if you're able to put in more, you will really be able to take out a lot of value from this degree and time with us here at Mason. I know I'm looking at the time. Was there anything you wanted to highlight here before we turn over to the student guest speakers, Dr. Stagel?
No, these are the activities. This is a part of your first week 1 project. You're gonna read this technical report from PSYC, Guidelines for Education and Training, and you're going to apply that during an assignment to study the world of work and understand how this education and training experience will then transfer to practical expertise that you can either apply as an IO practitioner, scientist practitioner, although some of our students might consider themselves practitioner scientists, or just port to your work as, a leader of an accountancy, or, a lot of students are working in some kind of medical setting. And so these are the kinds of activities that will reinforce the development of these core competencies.
Just to give you an example, today I received an email an hour ago. As I mentioned, I'm teaching research methods and practicum, and students, they have now drafted their introduction section, and they have a partnering group who they have to give feedback on. They exchange their introduction, so they have to give feedback to each other. And one of the group members said, kudos to the other group 3, because I read about neurodivergent, how the topology and how to sort of be able to collect data on neurodivergent, neurotypical individuals. This was mentioned in a DI initiative at work today, and I was able to share those best practices at work for a survey that we're collecting. And it was really neat to just, as Dr. Stagel says, it's so amazing to just hear on day to day. We hear it all the time when we're teaching the course about how students are able to translate something they're learning that week into the work that they're doing and make an impact and a difference. And so now that individual has impacted the way the questionnaire is going to be administered in their workspace. So it's really neat to be able to have that opportunity to see that through all the exchanges and interactions. Just highlighting a little bit about career outcomes, as several of you, I'm sure, are thinking about the outcomes. I'm not going to cover all this in detail, but of course, based on the Bureau of Labor Statistics, IO psychologist, has a lot of growth projections. But one place you might want to look at is we have an IO newsletter. And at the end of the IO newsletter, you can just literally Google it, GMU IO newsletter, and we'll try to drop a link in there. At the end, you can go to the Good News Corner and see all of the job promotions and opportunities or new jobs that our students are getting. And, it does include both all PhD, MA, and MPS students, but you can even focus on the ones that MPS students are attaining to give you a sense of the type of positions and organizations our students are receiving jobs. We talked a little bit about this already, about all the professional development opportunities. So yes, you have the coursework that's building your core knowledge and competencies. You're taking advantage of those live office hours and engaging with your peers and faculty. We host monthly calls, and for you to connect with program leadership, both Dr. Stagel and I, we invite guests. We have the IO Learning Series he mentioned, where we invite prominent guest speakers that's open to our PhD and MPS programs. As a result of the pandemic, there are several that are hosted virtually, whereas previously they were only open to students on ground. We provide access to university career services. Our students typically get their resumes reviewed or practice interview skills as needed. And then we share several external opportunities with jobs, internships, and competitions and more. Dr. Stagel?
I just wanted to say our last monthly meeting we just hosted, right? It was the end of May, and we had a senior person in from LinkedIn and advising people on how to package their work media and be better applicants and attractive employees for succession management purposes. But at the same time, we had a guest speaker the same night. They were actually working on a panel who's working in industry, and she's helping venture capitalists study their decision-making processes. So that's the amazing, thought mixture that we're talking about here, is that you have someone who's working at LinkedIn trying to help you get promoted, and then someone else telling you about their research, and these two had worked together for a while, and that's why they were in the panel together, but telling you about the research on the latest thinking of Silicon Valley VCs and what their decision processes are, and how to apply IO decision theory and other forms of decision theory to understand those processes. So just really rich, and that's a very exceptional experience. It doesn't happen every single month, but we do have people come in from Accenture and other people Deloitte recruiting, and so there are wonderful opportunities each month to engage again with your peers. That's more MPS centric, but other people are invited as well, and engage with your peers, meet people from different cohorts, and make terrific connections outside the program.
Absolutely. So now let's, that's just a student testimonial, but I want you to turn it over to the student representatives here with us this evening. And I'd like to introduce Victoria. Is it Frerish? I want to make sure I pronounce it correctly, Victoria.
It's Frericks.
Frerish.
Like Fredericks
Okay.
without a D in the middle.
Got it. There you go.
Everybody has to ask. Don't.
Thank you. And Jessica Fox, I knew I would get it, Victoria, next semester is when I'd have you as a student, but thank you for that reminder. Now I'd like to turn it over to them to introduce themselves, a little bit about the work they do, and talk a little bit about their experiences in the program. And please feel free to drop some questions in the chat because they're here to support your process in learning more about the program. I mean, you've heard a lot from Dr. Stagel and I tonight, but we want to make sure that you get any questions answered from either them or us this evening. So please feel free to drop some of those questions in. Can I get Victoria, can I get you to get us started?
Sure. So I'm Victoria Frericks. I am Director of Research for a small consulting firm called Cambridge Professional Insights. I've been with them since 2016, and I've been the Director of Research for about 4 years now. We do research with global clients generally, and specifically pharmaceutical industry. Most typically, that's our most frequent clients are in the pharmaceutical industry. I decided to return to school as an adult to get my MPS with Mason because I was finding myself very passionate about all the employee research we were doing with these companies, and specifically the things that inspired positive behaviors from employees and how to get employers to do the things that made employees happy. And that was the best way, in my opinion, to do that, was to switch a little bit of a pivot from just pure research to doing more with employees and DE&I. So that is why I am here. And it is nice to meet all of you. Jessica?
Okay, hi, I'm Jessica Fox. I'm currently a human resources pathways intern at NASA. I began that in January. So for the past 6 months, I've been in my rotation of program management. I'll switch over soon to human resource business partners. Then after that, into like employee relations and selection type of rotation. Before that, I worked in like a talent acquisition, but I'm loving what I'm doing at NASA. I actually came straight from undergrad to grad school, and I chose IO psychology online through Mason because my brother goes to Mason first, and second because I liked the different options you had in careers while going through this program. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do at first. Obviously, I'm still deciding since I'm in a rotational internship, but I like to be exposed to as much as I can before really settling down on one career.
And there are other amazing IOs at NASA doing awesome work on team research. I got to plug the team research all the time on team and multi-team system research. So there's a whole career path ahead if Jessica wants it. I don't speak for them, obviously, but there's awesome human performance and long range space exploration performance and just amazing stuff going on down there. And this all could be for you as well.
So Victoria and Jessica, can you tell us a little bit about some of the things that you, as an applicant, thinking back to when you were an applicant, what were some things you'd want to know or you think that you'd like to share with them in terms of your experiences with coursework and your peers, and highlight any challenges as well that you may have and how those have been overcome with your experiences with us?
I can kick this off. I know that one thing that I struggled with, especially changing jobs and companies and hours and everything like that, was finding a good balance. But I think one thing that I would have to like share with everyone, which I hope that they can implement too, is have time for yourself. If you spend every waking minute looking at your computer, you're not going to be as productive as if you just sit down and enjoy a day of yourself. So like I know that like work two jobs sometimes. I'm also in school. I give myself at least a day to have a day for myself because it helps me to be more productive in the time that I'm working on school. I think that's one big thing that I've learned. Just really focus on time management and it'll be a lot more productive.
That's great advice to share. Victoria?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I usually my week with work is front loaded. So my Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays are just slammed. So I usually do not engage with my schoolwork until maybe the Thursday of the week. And that might not work for other people, but for me, I have to front load my work week so that I can spend the time on Thursday, Friday, and usually into Saturday on my coursework. So it really does, and it does, like I try to keep Sunday for my family. So I try to get everything done within those 3 days. It usually works out. I might find myself engaging on a Monday or Tuesday if I'm not working late hours that week, but it's just, you have to be flexible with that, and you have to understand, if you've got obligations in other areas, that you're budgeting your time properly.
Absolutely. And, you're going to figure out your own individual styles. We have students, that talk about, they like to spread it out throughout the week. So they'll do all their readings Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, start doing discussion posts, submit it on Thursday. I mean, everyone has their own working style that works best for them. Jessica and Victoria, what are some of your favorite experiences so far in terms of related to projects or coursework or faculty that you'd like to highlight and share with the group? Because I know that time management can be a challenge. So we highlighted some of the challenge, but what are some of those positive experiences you'd like to highlight?
I think I can start. So our cohort is really, really close. We're really tight. Dr. Sagel will attest to the fact that about 20 of us descended upon him at PSYC. We have made a really tight, cohesive group. We study, we trust each other. If we are confused, we know that we can hash it out with each other in the group chat that we have going. My positive experience is the networking that Mason has given me and that I have with my cohort and that we experienced at PSYOP. I honestly believe that there's, they always say that part of what you pay for with your university degrees is your networking opportunities. And I am an advocate for GMU alumni for sure.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Victoria on that. I love the dynamic that our cohort does have. It can be personal, it can be like, oh my gosh, academic. I can't speak right now. But it's a very good dynamic and it's super close knit. I wasn't able to attend PSYOP unfortunately this year, but I plan to next year. But I think that is great. A great aspect of this program is definitely the networking. I think I'll also say like seeing that like applicability to my position, even past coursework or any other more like, I guess, informal jobs you could say, but I still waitress. So jobs like that, you can still see what you're learning being applied to much of what you do in life. And I think that just helps it feel very worth it because within the first 2 weeks, you're applying it to any experience that you've had.
I'm Jessica, I love that you highlighted that. Like in the world of work, we can always identify ways that all the theories and concepts that we talk about can be applicable. My son actually started his first job ever last Monday as a swim coach for the mini Stingrays. And my entire drive, he's a 14-year-old, so it's his first job and it's a summer job. My entire way, I was so excited for him. Like, you're entering the world of work, and we're having these conversations. And Dr. Stegel, you'll be excited, was talking about team dynamics because he's working with a team of other coaches and all of that. So, very much applicable to everything, no matter what the level it is. But that's great. So you know, you guys mentioned those things in terms of those collaborations, and we encourage that. We encourage those collaborations. We encourage that networking opportunity with your peers, and you will be connecting with your peers, not just those that are coming in with you. And if you're applying in the fall or the spring or the summer, you'll be connecting with people across all different levels. And so, like, for example, Dr. Stagel invites, you know, students that have, you know, matriculated a little bit through the program, they'll come back and speak. And it's really nice, Dr. Stagel, that you do that, because by the time that they come into my course and I invite the students who just completed research methods practicum, they're coming in as guest speakers and everyone's familiar. And they're like, hi, Shayna, or hi, so-and-so. They're very much familiar with each other. And that's really nice because they're broadening their network. They're adding all of those connections on LinkedIn. Dr. Stagel?
And both Victoria and Jessica have spoke, and they're coming back again, I hope, and they're going to speak again to their peers. And that's how this works. And that's a great way to connect with new people from the program, right? And it's a whole new cohort of people. And so you kind of pay it forward, and people are going to be building in your community of practice the whole time. We have hundreds of alumni at this point, and current students. And so that's an amazing network just to start out with. And then you're going to meet the MA students in the on the ground program, as well as the PhD students. There are students in other programs you can potentially meet. Like I mentioned, you'll be invited to the B School series, learning series. And so there's just an incredible opportunity here. You'll be at PSYOP. Victoria can tell you, PSYOP's a little overwhelming the first time you go, especially at a big place like Boston, if you're not from there, and you get to meet thousands of IO psychologists. And just, it's incredible, the spectrum of different ideas and different research projects that they're working on, different consulting initiatives. PSYOP doesn't just host this one annual conference. They have in the fall a very seasoned, for very senior practitioners, a leading edge consortium meeting as well. And many representatives of like Fortune 500 companies are there. And that's, you know, PSYOP is its entity. We're also connected. We mentioned the interdisciplinary nature of this. We're connected with the Academy of Management and Society of Human Resource Management and the Association of Psychological Science, and all of these different entities that are related, kind of sister societies and professional organizations. You can attend their conferences, and they're going to want you to present at their conferences, and you're going to be able to network with their vast networks and communities of practice. So many opportunities to learn and connect with others.
Absolutely. All right, I know I want to be mindful of the time, so please let us know, are there any questions, thoughts, comments that we can address? So one reason why we do it Zoom instead of doing the webinar show, we like to be able to see you all and hear from you all. So if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand, you know, unmute yourselves. We'd be happy to answer them. Victoria, a question or a thought? Sorry.
I have a thought, and I just want to reassure everyone that is not a natural data scientist, that ADA 1 and ADA 2 will not kill you. We are getting through those courses. I will say that I am a researcher in a consulting company, and the data analysis that I'm learning is very different than what I do in my business work, but it is not inaccessible. It's so well explained by our instructors. We have great office hours. I highly encourage you to attend office hours. And it's not as scary as you think it is. So don't let that be a discouragement for you if you are not a natural data scientist.
I 100% agree. I've had no experience in the programs that we use, and it's doable. And I'll also agree with Victoria that office hours are such a great resource for any course, but especially helping out a lot in the ADA courses.
That's great. Thank you so much for reiterating that, because you often do have applicants who are a little worried coming into the program because they may not have as much of the data analysis experience or coursework, or a lot of them say the last time we took a math or stats class was 20 years ago. And so it's really reassuring for folks to be able to hear that, you know, we do walk you step by step. And my biggest advice I tell students is take it one course at a time and 1 week at a time, and you'll see one step forward and you'll see yourself progressing each step of the way.
You also have access to LinkedIn Learning for free. So in addition to your courses and your instructors and your assistants, you're going to have all these modules that you can access for free that are normally, you know, restricted. And you can learn about all. In addition, though, you pair those modules to the virtual computing lab that Mason has, and you can learn well beyond the software suites that we cover. You can learn coding languages and machine programming languages and additional many different software suites, dozens of them that you can access for free, and you'll have tutorials through LinkedIn Learning to use. So you pair those with the access to the VCL, and it's just an incredible toolkit.
Absolutely.
I did get a private question to me that said, does one need to complete MPS before getting into the PhD program?
So the PhD program, it's not like the MPS is necessarily a pathway to the PhD program. So for students, if you're talking about George Mason University, you can get into the PhD program directly after an undergrad, but you would need to have, the criteria is different, right? They do look at your GPA, they look at the GRE scores, and they look at your research experience. And so if you are interested in coming to George Mason's PhD program, then that's, you need to be thinking about that. And you can apply with just an undergrad degree. Now, we have students who have completed the MPS program and have gone on to PhD programs elsewhere. And they've gone on to prestigious PhD programs in IO and in business schools. And so that is another pathway, and they leverage their experiences here and they get involved with research and apply to those PhD programs. Dr. Stagel?
And we have a student who's going to be a very competitive applicant for the upcoming PhD core class. Now, that doesn't mean they'll be selected, because it's a very competitive process. They receive hundreds of applications for very few slots, a handful. But we do have a student who is already at a top program at UConn, working with one of the world's foremost teams and multi-team system scholars, Dr. John Matthew. And another student who's also in a PhD program, that's in the management department. But we have another student in the psychology department who just graduated from our MPS program in UConn's PhD program in the psych department. But as I mentioned, we do have a third student out there pursuing a PhD as well. But we have a new fourth student who's going to be a very competitive applicant coming up. So there is no reason why, if you invest in yourself properly from the beginning, and we'd have to demarcate that as a beginning in the first few months, not from day one. In the first few months, we'd have to start setting up additional learning opportunities for you to pursue, both independently and through other engagements. There's many kinds of research webinars and research sessions and events you can attend online. And if you do those things, then you can build your vita, and ultimately you can be a competitive candidate yourself.
Victoria, did you have something to add to that? Or was you?
I did. When I first investigated the program, I was interested in pursuing my PhD. And as time went on, I decided that it wasn't a great use of my remaining career time. So I was just nodding because I was aware that when I investigated, the MPS credits don't technically, I think I just had my hand up all this time. I didn't really mean for it to be up, but I was nodding because I knew that the MPS wasn't a direct pathway to the PhD program. But that, as you said, they had told me that I could possibly pursue it elsewhere or attend additional events to get that PhD pathway open.
And that's a great point that individuals have their unique goals. And I see there's a question that came up and it says, is the PhD needed in this field in order for advancement? And my answer is no. We have a lot of individuals successful with a master's degree that matriculate and progress in their careers and oftentimes make more than PhDs. So it's all about the experiences and that one can have while they're, after obtaining the master's. So both MA, MPS, I mean, sometimes Dr. Stagel's laughing because I just learned about another student who got a great job at Booz Allen Hamilton, and I was amazed at how much they were making. And I will tell you that professor salaries are not up there like some of these practitioners. We don't, remember, teaching, you do it for the love of teaching, right? But yes, so that is not necessarily a requirement to be successful or progress in one's career.
We get paid in your accomplishments.
All right, other questions, thoughts, or comments from any of our participants this evening?
Someone have some questions. It's not a very high pressure situation here. You can ask anything that comes to mind. No worries.
I do have actually a question from a student that was not able to attend. For students that are applying with an under 3.0, what do you recommend for students with lower GPAs?
Do you want to take that, Dr. Stagel?
Yes, prep, get involved in that LinkedIn Learning or some other stats course that you can take, module that you can complete for at least a few hours, and provide a supplementary statement about those experiences that you engaged in. Let us know that you've been pursuing additional learning opportunities, and be specific about the knowledge and proficiency you've attained from those experiences, and we'll be able to discern whether or not you're actually learning from that description, but be very granular and detailed. And that's one way of supplementing your application.
And, it's a good reminder that the things the selection committee is looking at is your GPA, your work experience, those personal statements, those statements about your experiences. So if you're able to translate the things you're doing on the job and the supplemental learning, LinkedIn Learning, or, courses that you're taking. And if you have an explanation or reason as to perhaps why your GPA is not meeting the threshold or minimum requirement, we do take a look at all these statements. We do try to look at the, application as a whole. All right, we have a comment saying we presented and told you all everything you needed to know. Maybe that's why the questions aren't coming through. So that's wonderful. If there's no more questions, thank you all so much for joining us this evening. We were really excited to be able to see your names and some of your faces. And if you have any remaining questions, please reach out to the admissions team, and they typically, are well versed in answering any questions related to our program. But if not, they always reach out to Dr. Stagel and I to get any clarity and make sure that they can get back to you with a response. So, with that, as we wrap up, I wanted to show you all this picture. This is the spring 2023 graduation. So this is where you all could be with us in a year and a half if you choose to join us. It is a lot of fun. Students came from all over and were able to join and celebrate their accomplishments. And so with that, we talked a little bit about it, the admissions process, make sure you get all those requirements in with, identifying your bachelor's degree with the undergrad GPA, your transcripts, your resume, those 2 letters of recommendations. Be mindful of who you're asking for those 2 letters of recommendations, and your personal statement. And while we are hoping you have some prerequisite courses related to research methods, stats, or IO, or other related areas, again, highlight that if some of those experiences are coming from your undergrad degree, make those connections for us to see. And if you don't, what are supplemental things that you're doing to show that, as Dr. Stagel mentioned, that you have learned or picked up on some of those knowledge, skills, and competencies.
Just search YouTube. When someone asks that question, there are thousands of videos about R Studio, SPSS, Excel. Learn something and show us that you've made progress.
Absolutely. Thank you, Casey. I saw you left all of the contact information with email, phone numbers, and text, so you can get in touch with one of our representatives.
Yep. Yeah, and thank you to the presenters, Dr. Ahmad, Dr. Stagel, thank you, and our guest speakers, Victoria and Jessica. Like I mentioned in the beginning, this is really helpful for students, whether they're here or we've recorded it, but we can't always answer everything. So doing these little sessions really help, like I said, myself and these students as well. So thank you for taking the time and joining us. And everyone, thank you. Great turnout as well.
See you in August.
Yeah.
I know. We'd love to see you in August. I do want to make sure Jordan asked one question. So if we can close off with one piece of advice for the personal statement. I'm going to start with our student guest speakers. Jessica, one piece of advice for crafting that personal statement.
Oh my gosh, it feels like forever that I wrote it, even though it wasn't almost a year though. I would just say, like, be authentic with like who you are and what you want to experience and accomplish. Dig deep. It doesn't need to be surface level. You can kind of get into the nitty gritty because one advice that I've gotten from people in cohorts above me, people that Dr. Stagel has connected me with, is you don't always have to fit the prompt as long as you're answering the question. Like, make sure that you are just being like creative, authentic, and like yourself.
That's great, Jessica. Thank
Yeah,
you.
great.
Victoria?
I absolutely agree with Jessica. So what I did with how I approached my personal statement was I explained why I was pivoting my career, and that had some very personal underpinnings to it. So it doesn't always have to be about your academics. It can also be about what influences you in your life, what influenced your behaviors and your choices, and why it's important for you to learn and grow in a new way. So just think about that when you're writing your statement, and just make sure that you leave a piece of yourself in it. So.
That's great. Dr.
Great
Stagel, anything
advice.
to add for one piece of advice for the vote in the applicants crafting their personal statement?
I'll just add, I'm looking for what energizes you and what you're seeking to accomplish. I want to know what impact you're wanting in the multi-level open system. How do you intend to change, organizations and teams and people, but also what energizes you? What gets you out of bed at 4 a.m. to get to work to find this critical problem that you have to solve? The answer you have to generate for this important research question. What really motivates your energy each day?
And I'd like to, those are all great pieces of advice. And I'd like to just close out with, by telling us what energizes you and how you're going to be bridging your learning to your experiences and work experiences and your personal stories, the authenticity and humanness comes through, right? And that's something we pride ourselves. A lot of individuals may steer away. That I would say that's a myth about steering away from online programs. As you heard from Jessica and Victoria, cohorts are very close. They're close to each other. They're close with faculty. And, these connections are being made, whether it's in person and online. We have come a long way. And so we can even see that through your personal statement. So remember that it's human beings connecting on both sides, whether it's the instructor with the students and whether students with peers. And we here at George Mason University have created a culture and climate that really makes us unique. And a lot of students find a lot of value to that where they would not find that elsewhere. So that I would like to close with that we look forward to having you all apply to our program and joining the George Mason University community. So again, thank you all for joining us this evening.
Thank you all. Thank you guys.
All right, bye-bye.
Thank